Ladies and gentlemen, why don't we go forward and call the meeting to order? We're there he is. Okay, let the record reflect at 12:06. We will call the September 27th, 2012 meeting of the Calendar Committee together. To order, rather. We'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the April 26th meeting.
So moved.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion. We have a second. One second.
Did you?
I still moved. I beat you to it.
Oh, no, sorry.
Moving second. Any discussion on the minutes? Any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Anyone? Abstain.
Abstain, sir.
Okay. Okay, so one abstention. Okay. Item number 3 on the agenda, public comment. We're not really, even though we're operating on the rules of Brown, we're not doing this by public comment cards, so we'll just go around and do it, okay? So, if everyone's okay with it, we'll do it by the chair and recognition, so we'll start here, and Simon, you and them.
If I could just say, I know your name, but for those of you that want to speak, I don't take down your comments, but I do need to have them. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, so if you could just, introduce yourself before you start your comments, so.
Sure. Well, since I'm not speaking as a member of this committee, I'm going to vacate the chair. I'm Matt Hennis, and I just want to say that some of the sentiment on campus regarding this committee directly is writing, but on hearing that the committee was meeting, 2 of my colleagues had some responses. One of them was, "What's the point?" And another was, "My suggestion is your committee should just disband, considering what's going on with how the last calendar, or the student calendar, has been approved, bypassing our committee." The growing sentiment is that a certain faculty member, upon being invited to a committee, declining the offer, reasoning that, why am I going to put my work into this when administration is just going to take over? And I'll follow that with, I'm wondering if this committee can give me any rationale or reasoning that I can offer to my students or fellow faculty members as to how switching the 6-week session to a different part of the year is a cost-saving measure. Thank you.
Simon, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Simon Fraser. I am the Associate Student President for 2012-2013. Very briefly, most of my comments that would normally fall in public comment were actually perfect for shared governance discussion. That will relate to how AS will take calendar changes moving forward from shared governance. I just wanted to let you all know that we have 5 seats. One of those seats is filled. I'm just a member of the public. She is on her way. The other 4 seats I am trying to replace and should have, or trying to replace now, should have by next week, so you should have a full complement of students. Unfortunately, the difficulty has been what Hennis has described, which is what is the point. So that is something that I'm trying to overcome. If there is guidance that this committee would like to issue on how I can convince those students to be AS appointees, that would be appreciated, because I'm finding it a hard sell. So I would appreciate some guidance.
I'd just like to share something at some point. It's just something that came to our office from someone. People, when they see public relations, everyone has their own interpretation of what that might be or what it may do. And everyone in the office received this email the other day, and I think, something we might want to think about. Somewhere down the line, it says, "Hi, I'm a student who majored in architecture and about to transfer after winter sessions. I was planning to finish the last 2 requirements in the winter session and catch up the deadlines for application to the 3 architectural universities that I long forgot. However, the applications of both universities will only be accepted before March, once a year. This means cancellation of winter session will affect a lot of my education plan in the bad way. I will only be able to take the last 2 classes in the spring semester. After I finish the semester, I will need to wait for a 3-session period in order to reach the deadline of the application, and then I will need to wait several months to get the responses. As an international student, I need to take at least 12 units each semester to qualify as a full-time student. This means I will need to take an extra unnecessary 36 units just because the winter session is canceled without informing the students a few months before the division was made. In a nutshell, the cancellation of winter session is extremely and inconsiderable, but inconsiderate for both my financial and education plan. I really wish the person who makes the decision would think it again and rethink it again. Thank you for reading the letter and have a great day.
Thank you.
So, Danny?
Hi, my name is, I'm Danny Hammond, and I teach over at the coordinating, the Community Education Center. And first I want to thank the calendar committee for listening to the input of others. And second, I want to thank you for all your hard work and effort, the hundreds of hours you've put in over the past year to create the current calendar, which includes a winter intersession. I have a few questions, and I hope the committee will consider. I will highlight a few of them here, but I will leave others with you in writing. And I also have a few comments to make and a final request. I'm not going to die, don't worry. As for the questions, has the Chancellor's office been notified of a change in our calendar? If so, who communicated with them? What was communicated? And when was that communicated?
Dan, are you going to get, will you provide a copy of that? I'm trying to.
Yes, I'll leave you this, I guess.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, I don't want you to have to write all that down.
Okay.
Don't worry. What was the significance of October 1st? Who decided that October 1st is the date of operational necessity? When was that decided? How was that decided? And why was that date established as the date of operational necessity? As for the comments, at the bottom, at the Board of Trustees meeting on the 29th, August 29th, the board and the public were told, quote, the board has the obligation to continue to negotiate in good faith with the collective bargaining representatives the impacts of the terms and conditions of the work calendar on employees. If the student calendar is truly tentative and the terms and conditions of the work calendar, which include whether or not there is a winter intersession and its date, why does the website and the literature distributed in our boxes immediately after the board voted on this on the 29th indicate that classes will begin January 7th and that the negotiations are not about whether there will be a winter intersession? Where is the negotiation and where is the good faith? On March 7th, 2012, the board voted to follow their previously stated principle of not exceeding state funding for classes by more than 2%. The board did not vote to cancel classes in winter intersession or cancel winter intersession. I went back and watched the video of the vote. The administration decided how the 4,777 sections that are state funded would be allocated, creating the false choice of a winter intersession without classes, and that's because they did not allocate any sections to winter intersession, but that was not a motion made by our board that they could not do that, or whether you want to cancel intersession. The FA's position is that the calendar is tentative because it has not been negotiated. From a legal perspective, it has to be signed off to be an approved calendar. It has not been approved by the FA. So if it goes forward, it will be an imposed calendar, a breach of our contract, and an unfair labor practice. More importantly, though, is the imposition of the proposed tentative student calendar constitutes a violation and blatant disregard of shared governance and all of the hard work you put in over the past year to develop our current calendar, which includes a winter intersession. We respect your long hours of hard work, and if at some point through the shared governance process you decide that our calendar needs to be changed in the best interest of our students, we would be more than happy to listen and consider those changes. This committee's discussion today or in the future regarding any aspect of the imposition of the proposed calendar, the proposed tentative student calendar, does not change any of this. Therefore, I would strongly suggest that this committee, if it deems appropriate, make and pass a motion stating that it opposes the tentative student calendar and sees the imposition of this proposed tentative student calendar as a blatant disregard of shared governance in general and this committee's hard work over the past year specifically. In addition, I would add that any discussion by this committee regarding its imposition, the imposition of this calendar, does not suggest and should not be considered tacit approval by the calendar committee. So what I'm concerned about is that by discussing it here today, there would be the implicit or suggestion at the next board meeting that you guys have basically agreed to it. So I'm suggesting that you make some kind of a motion. Again, it's not my place to make the motion. I'm not telling you what to do, but it's my suggestion so that it could be very clear to the board how this committee feels about the calendar. So I want to thank you again for your hard work and for taking the time to listen and consider these comments.
As a point of clarification, I think that the date you're referring to is October 2nd. You're referring to the Faculty Development Day on next Tuesday?
No.
Okay. I don't know.
October 1st, we've been told that the operational...
Yes, if you read the minutes, in the recommendation that was approved by the board, the date of operational necessity was deemed October 1st.
Misunderstood.
And I don't really understand the significance of that or what's going to happen after that date or whatever, but, so that's kind of what I'm asking about. And I'll leave these comments for you.
Yeah, but we still need answers to the first two questions.
Sorry, Ryan. Well, then I'm not sorry.
Melissa?
Hi, I'm Melissa Michelson. Is that all you need? Okay. Let's see. Having heard Danny speak, I feel like, I agree with everything he just said. And if I were on a committee like your committee, I probably wouldn't participate further until some certain things get clarified. Because all the work you did is just down the drain, in my opinion, and now you're having to backtrack. A couple things I just noticed. To second that question, one of Danny's good questions was, when does the tentative calendar, which is on this paper, become not tentative, which basically is an imposed calendar on this paper? And what is the date on that, and why? And again, question. Who is making that decision? It doesn't seem like it's coming from this group. I don't know. The second thing I just saw in your new revised calendar, or these registration schedules and important term dates, this is very alarming to me, is that final exams end on May 5th in this new imposed calendar. We need to get our grades in by when? The 7th? 2 days later?
What was the Tuesday after the last day of conference?
Usually it is done. Usually it is. So Tuesday after the last day. That's not after the last day of conference.
But for winter, I think. But for the end of spring, I don't know. It just seems really tight to me. And I think that was...
When that week was added between spring and summer, you then got that extra week to get your grades in.
Mm-hmm.
Before that week was added in, you always only had 2 or 3 days to get your grades in.
My department's never had that. We've always had that next Tuesday.
Ladies and gentlemen, make sure we get to everything. Since we're still in public comment, let's... Excuse me.
And one very quick last thing is I've been talking to my students who are international students, and they are very disappointed that they're not going to be able to go back for the Chinese New Year, which is a really important time for them. And whereas we don't quite understand it, it really is important for them. And they are our customers in the F1 students.
Hi, I'm Roger Marheim from the English Division and the Faculty Association, and I think it's pretty well understood that there is a very, very large consensus on the campus of students and faculty that a dropping of winter session in general is a bad idea, and an imposition, after all the work that this committee has done in Danny's book, is absolutely a violation of shared governance, a violation of contract, a violation of ethical decency. It is an insult to students who are preparing their attempts to transfer and to have to deal with this kind of thing. I want you to know that the FA has staunchly opposed this imposition, and we will continue to do so through all means, legal, perhaps walkouts, perhaps job actions. And we see this as one of the most serious crises on this campus in many, many years. And I go back 33 years. And I'm not prone to hyperbole. And I want also you to know that we work very closely with the Senate in recent weeks. And we're going to propose that the Senate and FA have a joint resolution that condemns this calendar. The Senate was frankly lied to by Dr. Rocha, who basically told them that we were going to have the entire month of September to deliberate on this, and then he went ahead and offered the Board of Trustees the possibility of implementing the calendar way back in late August. And so I want to say the same thing with Danny, that I would suggest that if you want to be a part of this overall campus process, I know the students have a campus position. It's very, very noble of them. We have a poll going out to find out what faculty are going to do. It's going to be going out today and tomorrow. I would suggest, if this committee sees fit, to move to resolutely oppose any kind of change in the calendar that was deliberated upon all throughout last year, to maintain the winter session as planned. That actual vote will mean something in the sense that then the Senate can take your deliberation and your vote and take it under advisement, and then we can help the Senate vote in a similar fashion. These are the two bodies on this campus who represent enormous amounts of shared governance, and the board could not ignore that. We would obviously bring it to the board's attention because we wouldn't trust that Dr. Rocha would bring it to their attention. So that's my strongest advice, is this board could resolutely oppose the implementation of the new calendar and any kind of imposition. The wording is up to you, but that's my strongest suggestion.
Hi, my name is Brian. I'm a student here. I really like his idea, and I feel like if you guys were to support that as well, because when going around, I was with a group that's affiliated with the Social Justice Club, and when having students sign this petition about whether we agree with the cancellation of the winter intersession or not, I mean, it was a 1 in 20 that didn't agree with it, and the fact that the Board of Trustees would say that they're doing this for the good of the students, I feel like it's a powerful misrepresentation of what we feel like is in our best educational interest. And this being a calendar committee, the support that he was asking you guys to show, I feel like that would be a really strong move, because personally I feel the actions of the Board of Trustees show very little accuracy for what is good for this school, and I feel like a lot of the decisions that they're making are really detrimental to the campus. And from what I remember, the cancellation of the winter intersession was due to financial difficulties, but I mean, we have an article in the newspaper here that says they spent $10 million on new software. But what good is software if there are no classes left to take on campus? So I feel like the idea that he had of the calendar committee standing up behind the students, I feel like with that, there's nothing, the Board of Trustees couldn't really deny the fact that there's a presence on campus and the governance thing that, you know, it would mean a lot, and it would also show support. You know, the Board of Trustees, their power goes so far, and I feel like it's almost been, they've abused their power in a way, so it would, you know, we need all the help we can get, so that was a good idea.
Please.
Hi, I'm Kelly Camacho, and to go off what Brian said, I wouldn't portray myself as an elected person or a delegate who can say that I represent all students. However, I can say that from myself, Brian, Selena, Myra, tabling for the last week and a half, we can definitely say that around, where are we at, about 1,000 signatures? 1,000+ signatures on this petition, and that's not 1,000 out of 30,000. That's just as many people as passed us by, us tabling when we could. We got very few people who said, oh no, I totally want winter cut. Most students popped up to us. We didn't even have to go find them. They saw say winter intercession and came up, and we have each chatted with tons of students talking about oh, my transfer plans are shot. I've got I have a sequential course that I needed to take. I really wanted to get 1A out of the way and do winter. And if the calendar committee would take a stand, you can rest assured that there are a lot of students that would support you, and we should work together to try to fight the administration's very hostile takeover of the school, because I do feel that the school isn't a school until we come every day and make it a school. Without students and faculty creating that classroom experience, it's just a bunch of buildings that we keep redoing while the administration like goes on trips to the Taj Mahal. Like, so please, I would also like to put in like a student perspective of us supporting you if you would like motion or do something to staunchly oppose like the so-called, well, disgustingly called student calendar.
Any other public comment? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Moving on to item number 4, Simon Fraser, overview of Brown Act guidelines. Simon Fraser.
I will be exceedingly brief because you have a lot of other really important items on your agenda today. So, I'm not going to stand because I'm rather tired. Been up doing homework anyway. The Brown Act. Why is it important and why bother with it? And the thing that I think a lot of the college hasn't really understood about the Brown Act, especially the Shared Governance Committee, is it's not about trying to make you guys go through these crazy hoops or these long and involved processes. The Brown Act is really about the intent of it, and that can be split into 2 parts: notice and opportunity to participate. So when we talk about notice and opportunity to participate, the Brown Act states very clearly that the public and your constituents, so in this case the college, should be aware of what you plan to do or what you plan to discuss, and then should have the opportunity to weigh in on that decision. That does not give the public the opportunity to completely take over your meeting. It does not give the opportunity, it does not limit your ability to take actions. But what it does do is it does say, let the college be aware of what's happening. So how you do that, there are some specific guidelines. Agendas in advance and available at meetings like you do right now. So these have to be available at meetings so the public can look at your agenda and say, okay, this is probably what they're going to do today. And they also have to have the opportunity to comment. What's really important about that opportunity to comment is that it has to come before you take action. So let's say, for example, you were to get to this tentative student calendar option. Someone here was to make a motion that all tentative calendars should be banned. Someone seconds it, your vote. But hang on, I'm over here and I'm trying to say, hang on, I want to talk about this. I want to tell you something. That's a violation of the Brown Act, because that member of the public hasn't had the opportunity to speak on the action. And that's basically the Brown Act in a nutshell. That's really it. Notice to the public and opportunity to participate. Closed session is not something you will ever need to worry about because you aren't going to be hiring. The only time you will have to worry about closed session is if you have to go and give testimony to a grand jury as a committee. On this campus, I'm not going to rule it out. It's so unlikely I wouldn't even bother. The only one thing I would say is that public comment, a lot of people aren't really aware of what public comment is. When I spoke right now at public comment, the reason I did that was because there was something that wasn't on your agenda that I wanted to say, which was, I'm getting new members, I'm sorry I haven't had the ability to do yet. I've reserved my comments on shared governance and the student calendar until you get to those items. And there's a very good reason why I've done that, and this is probably a benefit to everyone in the room right now, is that in public comment, the ability of you guys by the Brown Act to respond is limited. And the reason for that is because they could be talking about anything. So someone comes in here and says, I think that we should all adopt the Chinese calendar versus the Western calendar, for example. And during public comment, you guys decide, that's a great idea, let's do it right now. The public wasn't aware that this was even an option. So now the public hasn't had the opportunity to come in and say, well, I think that's a terrible idea because we're not in China, we're in America. And we have a different calendar. So that's why at public comment, the ability of you guys to respond and discuss substantively is very limited. And I'm sure that makes sense to everyone. But when I come to the tentative student calendar and I say, I think I love this or I think I hate this, you guys can now take my input and consider it there and then and talk about it and decide amongst yourselves if that's something you want to consider, if that's something you want to put forward. And then it gives you the opportunity to remember what maybe was said in public comment immediately, because it's just happened, and then to take that into account when you're discussing and when you make a final decision. The only other thing which I should mention about the Brown Act is the principle of serial communication and closed door meetings. And ideally well, by the law, they should never happen. There are different ways that this can happen. One can be you decide to all get together in a room and don't tell anyone and make a decision. That's a closed door meeting. That's against the Brown Act. The other way would be that by, for example, Dr. Bell, I'm going to pick on Dr. Bell since I know he wouldn't do this, but I may as well pick on him anyway. So Dr. Bell goes to Miranda, and then goes to Krista, then goes to Matt, and then goes around each person individually and says, what do you think about this? And then they have an individual discussion about the merits of the calendar. So by the time you come into that open session meeting, you've all made up your mind because you had this discussion round robin style through someone else, or you've had it round robin through email. So now suddenly you're voting to go to the Chinese calendar, and the public's like, well, what just happened? Why did they do this? They have no idea. And when this happens, it creates a suspicion that you've broken the Brown Act, whether you did or not. So reserve comments. So what you can do is say, okay, here's my proposal by email, send that out. Please review and be ready with comments at the meeting. That's okay, that makes sense. What shouldn't happen then is a back and forth of, oh, well, I think this, let's change this, let's change that. That should happen in the context of the room. Then the public is aware what decision process you guys are going through. And if you are curious, the Brown Act is California Government Code 54950 through 54964. It is horribly laborious to get through. If you have any questions, I am cognizant of the time, but I'm happy to take a few now. I've studied it for a few years now, for some reason. And if only we offered transfer credit for it. But I'm happy to take a couple questions at the chair's discretion right now, otherwise I'll let you guys move on.
I learned a lot. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Question is, so for public comment, it says, for example, on this agenda, public comment number 3. Does that mean the public can actually comment on the other agenda items at any time?
Members of the public should be able to speak on any item. The public comment section is only put in place because the Brown Act requires that an opportunity to be provided for members of the public to raise issues, concerns, or anything that's within the jurisdiction that maybe the committee isn't aware of yet. But yes, the Brown Act does allow, before any action is taken, at least one comment per action. Essentially, the point is, yes, you can comment during Brown Act, or during shared governance, or during student calendar. The committee has to recognize a member of the public once. They don't have to do so again, because if they kept doing it, it might take forever. But committees and councils and boards are generally advised to err on the side of inclusion. And there is Attorney General's opinions on that, because it creates this environment that there is a spirit of the law being addressed as opposed to the letter of it. So inclusion is always better, as far as time allows. But the committee chairs do have the opportunity, and perhaps should, make sure that their committee members are being recognized above as well. So that, again, within reason, but because obviously the committee members are here because they have to make the decision, so they should really have the opportunity to discuss without myself and Myra and Victor and Professor Kiotis having a discussion around them, and they're just sitting here going, well, why aren't they in the committee? Make sense?
Thank you, Simon. Thank you very much. All right. Well, we'll just move on to item 5. If anybody else wants to say anything there. We've already touched on a lot of this. I just wanted to facilitate if possible, brief discussion about shared governance, and I thought I would open by just saying